Hello viewers, today we're going to continue with the adjustment of the valve shims, and after that we're going to continue by closing up the whole engine, the valve cover, the open. But first of all, let me show you what we're going to work with. So I have decided to buy this adjustment valve shims. Yeah, I bought two sets because if we open it up, okay, we're going to see that we have only 3 of them on average size, which means it's possible that we're not going to have enough of them. That's why I decided to buy 2 sets for in any case, but we're going to see. Probably one is going to be enough. The main thing that I'm going to need a valve adjustment is because we have reseated all of the valves and right now they are out of adjustments for sure. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it on one of the valves and going to redo this on 23 more valves. Okay, so as you can see, here is the spec. So on the intake valve, it should be between 0.80 and 0.23, which means we're going to aim for 0.20. And the exhaust valve is between 0.28 to 0.33, and as you can see, the engine should not be warmed up. The Quant temperature should be less than 35 degrees. In our case, this is easy because in the shop right now it's around between 10 and 12 degrees. So let's get started. Okay, so I have pretty much adjusted all of the valves except one. I left only this one to show you the idea of the job. I want to do this because I want to show you how much adjustment shims I'm going to left with. So as I told you, I bought 2 kits, but in the end of the day I didn't have one more for this 2.08. So on both of the kits I finished them, and here I finished the 2.12, but I still have here some. But I needed one more 2.08, so in the perfect case I'm going to need 3 kits, but I managed to figure out something. So yeah, if you want to be extra careful, it's a good idea to buy 3 of these. I was hoping that 2 is going to be plenty enough, but it turns out that they were not. Pretty much all of the exhaust ones are set to 0.30 millimeters of clearance. Some of them are, let's say, on the one that I told you that I need 2.08, which I didn't have, I made it around 0.33, which is the end clearance, but I think it's going to be fine. The cool thing is, when you remove the exhaust ones, some of the adjustment shims can be used on the intake ones, so that's why I have left with more from these shims, and especially these ones. But I managed to install a lot of adjustment shims from the exhaust on the intake side. Let's show you the process for one of the valves, the last one which I left. So once again, this one. So the thing that you're going to want to do, yeah, there is a clip here which you're going to want to remove. Right now they are not installed, but I'm going to install them after a second. This is the clips which are holding the rocker arms in place, so to not move left and right. So you're going to want to remove this, and after that slide the rocker arm to the side like that. And after that I'm going to use this tool. So this is the part number, and as you can see from behind we have a magnet which is helping us to remove the adjustment shim. So I'm just going to try to take it like that, and you can slide it off. And actually these plastics here are made for this, to not drop down some adjustment shim in the engine. That's why you have these plastic grills on your engine. Yeah, on the intake side we don't have it because we don't have holes like this. So now, after we took the adjustment shim, actually I forget one step, give me a second. First of all, I'm going to reinstall it back in place. I'm going to put the rocker arm. So this is the fuel gauge that I'm using. Most of the fuel gauges are going to have steps from 0.05, after that to 0.10, 15 and so on. They are between 0.05 millimeters from each other, but I managed to find a fuel gauge with much more detailed fuel gauge. So if I want to measure 0.23, I'm just going to take these 2 fuel gauges, and like that I'm going to be able to measure it, just combining both of the fuel gauges. So once again, 15 and 0.8. And the most typical fuel gauge is set like this. Let me show you. So as we can see, 0.05, 10, 15, 20 and so on. And by that you cannot measure more detailed what is the exact clearance of your valve in this case. You can use only in the intake side 0.20, which is exactly in the middle of the spec. So now let's see what is going to be the clearance. So I'm going to start with 0.20 and see it's going to fit, and it does not actually. It drags a little bit. For sure 15 is going to get inside. Let me check. So 0.15 millimeters, and it's too loose. This means that we're going to need to reduce the height of this shim with around 0.04. So let me get it out. Once again, using the tool. I'm going to measure how thick it is. So let's see. So 2.28 millimeters. So we, in the perfect case scenario, we're going to want to take, as I told you, 0.04 millimeters less. So in our case, is this shims. As we can see, this is 2.24. So I'm going to take one of it. Okay, so 2.24. So I'm going to try to install it. Like that. And after that I'm going to take the rocker arm and going to try to place it. So 0.20 once again. So yeah, I think this is the exact thickness. So this is how you're going to want to adjust your shims. You're going to need to do this 23 more times. This is just one of it. As I told you, I have done all of the others. This was the last one which I have done, and now we're going to start assembling the clips which I told you that are there for not letting the rocker arms move left and right. I have installed all the bolts. The smaller ones are going to be 10 Newton meters. And the bigger one, these two ones, are 22, but something really important when installing these two bolts, you need to apply thread locker here because the holes are passed through, and if you don't put a thread locker, you're going to have some oil leak here. Okay, so the open is installed. Just a few words. All of the bolts are pretty much the same except these two longer ones here and here. You cannot mess this up, you can install it anywhere else. But here, these three ones are a little bit longer than the rest. So as we can see, the reason that they are longer is because this is a little bit higher than here. So only here we have a little bit longer bolts. So I'm going to continue with the installation of this, I don't know, chute for the pickup tube. So I was thinking that I have the right gasket for it, but as you can see, this is the one which I bought, and this is the original one which I removed. And as you can see, the difference in the diameter and the thickness is not going to work out. So I'm going to need to reuse the old one, not only because I cannot find it now, but because of the price. I believe BMW is selling this for between 70 or 80 euro. I have spent a lot of money on nonsenses, but I'm not going to spend it on this. So I'm going to put a little bit of RTV and going to install it like that. Okay, for the oil level sensor, I'm not going to install it, I'm not going to use it. So I decided to find the original plug which BMW is making. So actually, even I showed you the number, it's going to be really hard to find this plug because BMW is no longer making this, if I believe so. So I bought this from a TDS. Some of their oil pens have this cap, so I found it from there. So this is the number. And it should work the whole of the oil level sensor. I have bought the gasket from the oil level sensor also. So yeah, as you can see, the gasket is going to seal good. So now I'm going to install it. If you are doing this, you're going to need a shorter bolts than the original ones. So once again, 10 Newton meters. Okay, so I'm going to use this plate here, which I took from M54. It's perfect match, so I'm just going to plug it in. I'm not going to use this because I'm not going to gain anything from it. So hopefully the old gasket is going to hold. It looks still decent, so it should be fine. So I'm going to torque it to 10 Newton meters. So before installing the ITBs, I'm going to install this Quant pipe. Here it is. This is the Quant pipe. This Quant pipe is going to require 3 O-rings, or at least they look like an O-ring. And this is once again one of the parts which are kind of expensive in my opinion. So we're going to need 3 of these. So this is the part number. 3 of this, and every each costs around 15 euro. So yeah, I think some things are a little bit overpriced on this engine, but I guess because they're small amount of production, that's why they are a little bit more expensive. And the other thing which I found out is the place one of the rings are going to seal. We have some oxidation, so I'm going to need to put some RTV, a little bit of RTV here, because previously it was leaking from here, and I guess this is the reason. Or probably because it was leaking, this happened because the engine didn't use the right antifreeze which requires, and this happens. The aluminum start to oxidize like this, and these pits are happening. So yeah, I'm going to apply some RTV and hopefully it's not going to leak. Okay, so I decided to buy a new pump, new Quant pump, and yeah, I know some of you guys are running the Stewart pump, and I know it's more efficient, but it is from USA and I did not manage to buy it, so I bought the OEM pump, which I'm sure is going to do the job. I'm not sure is it come with a new gasket, but I bought in any case a new gasket for the pump. And probably it will not came with the gasket, as I can see, it is only the pump. So let's take it out. So yeah, it's only the pump. So we're going to have a O-ring here for the thermostat housing and few O-rings, which I think I bought. So let me open up the gasket. There's two guiding pins, so it's going to be like that. So let's install it. This is the 5 bolts which I'm going to use, and I'm going to torque them to 10 Newton meters. Okay, so when installing the Quant pump, we need to aim it on these holes. So I'm going to put some silicone grease on the O-ring, just to make the job a little bit easier, like that. And now let's aim the pump. How it was, it should be something like that, I believe. Once again, make sure that the gasket is aimed on the both guiding pins. So something like that. I decided to go with new thermostat for this engine, and it's cool that these engines are running with thermostats which should be for 80 degrees. So this should open up on 80 degrees if I am not wrong, which is pretty cool for performance especially. So it's pretty easy to install it. So you're just going to take it and press it in the housing until it's flush, like that. And here you're going to need the new O-ring, which is installed on the water pump. So let me take it out. And yeah, I'm going to install it on the water pump, but when you're tightening up these bolts, don't forget to install this here. How it was oriented, yeah, it was like that. So the bolts are holding everything here, so don't forget to install it. So probably, I'm not 100% sure, but this bracket, I think it was on our way for something, but if I need, I'm going to remove it. I guess it's not going to be end of the world. Actually, yeah, I forget something. I need to install this pipe also, which goes in the Quant pipe which we installed previously on the cylinder block. So give me a second. So this is the piece which I'm talking about, and yeah, these O-rings are totally gone. So I'm going to replace them, so give me a second just to clean it a little bit. Okay, so the both O-rings for this is here. This is the part number. They are the same O-rings on the both sides, of course. The thing that I like to do is using this kind of pick and slide it as safe as possible underneath the O-ring, like that. And after that, start rotating the O-ring, and this should aim the O-ring as it's supposed to be, straight as possible. Okay, nice and flush. Now I'm going to try to aim the thermostat housing. Okay, just to check the O-ring on the Quant pump, it seems flush. Okay, and the plate for lifting up the engine, hopefully it's not going to be used so often. I know the camera is not focusing the plate, but yeah, tough angle to film. Okay, torque to spec. Okay, so now I'm going to install the oil filter housing, but because I was previously thinking to install this oil filter housing on M52. Before, I don't know, maybe a year or two, I bought a brand new one for my turbo build, but because I haven't installed it still, I think I'm going to install it on this engine. Seems just about right. So yeah, I'm going to install the new one. It's going to look a little bit better, and the thermostat which is inside the oil thermostat is going to be much more fresher than this 20 years old oil thermostat in this old filter housing. For sure this is going to do the job, but while I have the new one, I'm going to install it. I'm going to see, maybe I'm going to refurbish this one and going to install it on my turbo engine, which I'm going to build a little bit later. I'm going to need to transfer this sensor there. And for those of you that don't know, believe it or not, these oil filter housings are coming with the gasket. Okay, let's install it. So I'm going to remove this. Everything is degreased. Okay, so now I'm going to install the oil pressure sensor, which should be installed here, but as we can see, we have one more hole here, which on my older oil filter housing we have a poke here, but probably I'm going to install some oil temperature sensor here. I'm going to see what I'm going to do about it, but for now I'm going to install the oil pressure sensor here. So I have put new crush washer. So I'm not going to go crazy with this. This should be enough. Okay, so this is the tensioner which I'm going to use. I didn't bought OEM one because it's absurd price. So this is the tensioner. Here is the pulley, some hardware inside, bolts and shims. Actually, this is for the water pump. This is underdrive water pump, which I'm going to install a little bit later because I think it's going to be on our way. So I'm going to show you the comparison. Okay, so the tensioner itself, it should be placed like here. We have 3 threads on the oil filter housing. The smallest bolt goes here in this hole here. The other one, the middle length bolt with the shim, goes here. And the longer one, and it goes here pretty obviously. This also, I'm going to place this here, like that. After that is the pulley. We have this shield which should be installed behind, and the pulley goes here. So once again, the shim inside and the bolt. And yeah, this is the car which is protecting the bearing inside. So yeah, feels just about right. I'm going to continue with the installation of the exhaust manifold. I am doing a separate video about installation of this and comparison between those and the original ones. This is SuperSprint exhaust manifold, and now I'm going to install it. In later state I'm going to upload the full video about the installation of this, because right now the engine is not in the car and I cannot install anything else than this. That's why I'm doing a separate video only about this and to show you the sound with it. Okay, so everything torqued down to 15 Newton meters. Yeah, it was kind of impossible to film this process because there is not a lot of room. On some of the nuts it's impossible to use the torque wrench, but the accessible one I have torqued them. So everything's tightened up. And yeah, I started to wondering about, yeah, this hole probably is going to be for the EGT, the exhaust gas temperature, but this one here probably is supposed to be for the wide band, or for the Lambda sensor, the narrow band sensor. But here, if we check inside, let me try to show you. As we can see, we have some sheet of metals which is dividing the runners, which means if I put the narrow bud sensor, which the ECU is going to monitor for regulating the fuel, it's not going to work so good because of the divide here. So I'm thinking that I'm going to install it here, and probably here I'm going to install the wideband. Probably here going to do the same. About the sensors, I have decided that I'm going to buy few sensors, brand new ones, original ones, because most of you that are working on BMW is going to know that these Siemens systems can work only with OEM sensors. That's why I bought both camshaft sensors OEM plus the crankshaft sensor plus the both Lambda sensors. And I was kind of surprised that the camshaft sensor and the crankshaft sensor came with the O-ring. So this is the sensor, one of it, and as we can see, it came with O-ring. This is probably the first time that I see BMW to sell sensors with the included O-ring. And actually I checked the, this is the other camshaft sensor, but if I show you, this one doesn't have an O-ring. So where is the logic? One of it has an O-ring and the other one doesn't have it. So some of them are coming with and some of them are coming without. Where is the logic? I don't know. And here are the both Lambda sensors, and they are different length. So you're going to have different part number for the bank 1 and different part number for bank 2. So probably most of you have seen that I haven't installed the injectors with the throttle bodies. This was because I have sent them for recheck and cleaning, and it turns out that all of them were fine, which is perfect. So now I'm going to replace all the seals on the injectors, the lower and the upper one, and because BMW is selling these seals and they are pretty expensive and I don't see a point to pay so much for a typical O-ring. The kit came with this filter, which I'm not going to replace because the injectors are clean. I'm going to only replace the O-rings, and yeah, we have 6 of these kits inside. So this is all of them, and just to see the company which sent me this, because there is not a lot of options. So it's DK injectors, and the total price I forgot, but it was much more cheaper than buying it from BMW, and yeah, BMW is not selling these filters. So I'm going to replace all the O-rings and I'm going to install them. Okay, so about the engine mounting points. So back here we have the original E46 mountings, and yeah, this I think is brackets, or I don't know how to call this, but let's call them just mountings. And here we have from the E36. As you can see, the mounting point is pretty much on the same point, but from the research that I have and people are stating is that if you use the E46 mountings on the E36, the engine is going to be 1 or 2 centimeters forward, and if you use the E36 ones, it's going to be exactly where it should be. That's why I'm going to install my E36 ones, and they are a little bit different. As you can see, the E46 exhaust one is massive compared with the E36 one, and yeah, it's going to be installed on a different hose. It's going to be like that. If you guys remember, the E46 one was held by the bolts which are holding this valve pressure regulator, or I forget how was this called. I need to check, but it was held with the same bolts which are holding this bracket here. And the E36 ones is going to use different threads on the block, which actually I have painted because I forgot, but I have cleaned the threads. And yeah, pretty much it's going to be located on the same place. And once again, the intake side mounting is much more bigger than the E36 one, and it's going to be installed on different threads. Once again, it's going to be installed like that, and the original one is installed on these threads here, which is cleaner, so it's going to go like that. And yeah, I'm going to use this. As you can see the difference, we have ground here, which once again we're going to have. I'm going to install it here. But on the intake side we have this for the all gases, which I'm not going to use. Here I forget, this was about the intake plenum, I believe. I need to check, but I think it was holding the intake plenum for here. I'm going to need to figure out something. So I forget to install this hose for the valves, between the valves unit and the pressure accumulator. So I'm going to use this hose here. This is the brand. I'm not going to reuse the old one because it was leaking underneath here. So this is a common issue, that's why I decided to buy a new one, not the original one. I believe this should hold a little bit longer than the OEM one, that's why I decided to go with this brand. So the hose comes with copper sealant rings, but I don't like them, and that's why I'm going to use aluminum ones. And actually the original hose has a bracket which is holding the hose additionally here on the timing cover. Right now we don't have it, so I'm going to need to figure out something so to be a little bit more sturdy. So something like that, I'm going to figure out something. Okay, so the both bolts should be torqued to 13 Newton meters. I'm just going to hold the hose with a screwdriver, because when you start torquing it up, it's going to go towards the engine and I don't want to touch it anywhere, so that's why I'm going to use the screwdriver to hold it like that. Okay, 13, and the same on the bottom. Okay, as I told you, originally we had a bracket here on the original valve hose, but I managed to find something to use, this plastic holder, and I wrap it up the hose a little bit so to be more tight in this bracket, so it's not going anywhere. And pretty much this is the installation of this hose. Yeah, originally we're going to have the compressor here, but in my case for now I'm not going to use it, because I want to see that everything is running and everything is fine, and after that probably going to figure out something with the AC system, but for now I have removed everything about it. So a little bit of the process of the restoration. So here is from the back. Here is on the front. So as we can see, when it's painted, probably no one going to know that this have been cutted like here, let's say. So yeah, the only thing that left is to paint and to re-weld the slave bar point which is attached to. But yeah, it looks pretty good. Pete have done a good job here for sure. So little bit more work and we're going to see the Enterzud. So pretty much the plates for the slave bar are installed. We have hopefully seal up everything from rusting out. Hopefully it's going to hold for a long time. I don't think I'm going to need to ever touch this again, except I crash somewhere. We put even some wax inside the cavities, so I'm not sure you guys are going to be able to see, but yeah, I have put some wax inside, which hopefully going to increase the lifespan of this steel material. So yeah, everything is covered. I forget how was this called in English, but it's going to protect from some stones or something more aggressive. So I doubt the paint is going to fall down sooner or later.